What is up, everyone? Jeremy here. Welcome to another video in my In the Mix series, the video series dedicated to everything mixing and building a great mix. In this video, we're taking a look at a brand new Reaper metal mix template that I put together based on your requests in my Logic mix template videos. So I am happy to announce I now have a Reaper metal mix template, and we're going to take a look at it and break it down in this video. But first, let's go ahead and listen to a full mix audio sample demonstrating what this mix template sounds like, and then we will break down the template and all the plugins used, which were mostly free, by the way, and you will find links to all of the plugins used in this template and a download link to the template itself in the description below. But first, let's go ahead and hear the audio sample. Alright, so that is what the template sounds like. That is a full mix audio example right there for you. It's got drums with GGD Invasion, bass is the Submission Audio Gin bass, and the guitar tracks I recorded using my Solar A1.7D with the stock Solar Duncan pickups in it, and that is going into the STL Tones Emissary amp sim going into NAD-IR. That is a bundle you get for free from STL Tones. Again, the links for that is in the description. So what I want to do is now just break down what all went into putting together this whole mix template, and we're gonna walk through starting kind of top down, because that's how I like to approach my mixing anyways, is kind of starting with my master bus and then work backwards. So let's do that first. So the very first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pull up all the plugins that make up my master bus, and then we'll kind of talk about what each of them are and their purpose. So very first thing is this plugin that looks a lot like a very expensive plugin, that being the FabFilter Pro Q. This one, however, is free. And I found this, someone in the Discord channel shared this, or the Discord server shared this. If you are not in our Discord, I would highly encourage you to come join, because cool stuff like this is shared quite often. So jump in the Discord if you're not already in there. The link for that is in the description as well. So just click that and it's an invite link. It'll take you right in. But this is called Re-EQ, like R-E-EQ, not the Re-EQ that's built into Reaper, which is REA-EQ. But this is a really great plugin. The only downside to this plugin is it is fairly CPU intensive. So I kind of hit the limit on my machine how many instances of this I could use. So just kind of keep in mind, it's great for surgical things here and there, maybe putting on your master and a couple other tracks, but it does get to be resource intensive. Moving on to the next one is this ST-EQ. And so these two, the main two things that I'm doing here is some top-down EQ. And as you can see, I'm adding some air up here on the top end, and then just a tiny little bump at the low end, and then we're cutting off the super lows and super highs, just trying to tame the overall sound and add some clarity and depth to it. And then we go into the STEQ, and again, this is just doing some very, very minor moves. We've got maybe just a very, very little touch of opto compression going on here. It's probably not doing anything. I'll play it and we'll see. But it's just adding a touch of high end here. And then that's basically about it. But just kind of running through this like channel strip plugin. Again, this one is also free. I found kind of added this nice coloration to the sound. So we'll play this and just kind of see if there's any opto compression going on here. Yeah, I mean, you could see it move. It's not even like a half a dB down, but like it's just doing a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. And then we go into the TDR Kotelnikov, I believe that's how you say it, from Tokyo Dawn Labs. I think it's actually called Tokyo Dawn Records now. I don't know if this is just like an older version, but again, this is a free plugin. This is a fantastic compressor. Really, really great. Again, it's free. So this is just doing some minor compression on the master bus, and this is just basically to try and bring everything together, right? Like just kind of smooth things out across the board so there's no big peaks maybe from like the snare or anything, just to even everything out. And you can see that here when we look at the gain reduction. Yeah, so it's not doing a ton. Again, like maybe half a dB. So I'm not looking for massive amounts of compression on the master bus. It's just to smooth things out, level everything out, put them all on the same playing field, if you will. And then let's see, the next thing we go into is the TDR Nova, and this is also from Tokyo Dawn Labs or Tokyo Dawn Records, whatever they're called now. Really, really great dynamic EQ. I don't believe this is actually doing much of anything. I had it doing a little bit more, and I found I really didn't need much of anything here. So I left it just in case anything kind of peaked over the threshold I have it set to now. But as we play this back, you probably won't see much happening, but I'll turn up the threshold so you can see how it works. Yeah, you can hear my system's kind of starting to fart out. I think that this is just I've got too many plugins on the screen trying to animate all at once while it's also trying to process the audio, so I can't play it much longer than that, but you kind of see what it was doing there. Next up, we have the Slate Digital Fresh Air, which is a fantastic plugin. It, again, is free for adding that top end air, as it's called, to your mix. And I'll turn this on and off and you can see the tremendous, massive amount of just like clarity that is lost without this. And I don't have it up very high. I've got the mids at 8 and the air at 25, but listen to this. Absolutely massive difference without that plugin. So that really adds a lot of that top end crisp air, right? Like clarity to your mix. And then we go into, let's see, what do we go into next? This is the Ozone Imager. And this is a stereo processing plugin. Again, absolutely free from Isotope. I've never used this before, and I found this to be really, really great. So not only does it give you these different analyzers to analyze your stereo image, but I just kind of used it for the width here, just to pull it up a little bit, just to kind of expand the overall width of the mix here on the master bus just a little bit. And that's what I use this for. So I'll turn it on and off and see if you can notice a difference. It's not tremendous, but it's there enough that I left it. Yeah, I can really hear it more in, like when you're listening to the top end of the mix, that like the mids and the higher end, you can really hear it more than the low end. And then we've got, let's see, Submission Audio's Flatline, and this is one of the paid plugins, but this is kind of the clipper or limiter maximizer, right? So like this is what's really giving me the louder signal. And so when I turn this off, you'll hear the massive difference that this makes. Not only is it increasing the loudness, but it's also doing exactly what it's meant to do. It's a clipper, right? So it's kind of clipping off some of the peaks. It changes up obviously the way that things sound when some of those transients are kind of getting clipped off, and so it actually adds a nice effect on here for certain types of music, right? And so this is one of them that I think it fits really, really well. But I'll turn it off and you can see the tremendous amount of volume that is lost as well. Yeah, and you can see like the red is like what it's calling the gain reduction, and ultimately that's where things are kind of starting to get clipped. And in this little triangle thing here, when you select this, it actually will allow you to hear what is being lost in your signal. And I'll play this just back for a second so you can hear it, but all you're gonna kind of really hear is what's gonna sound like static, and that's just like the very tips of like some of these transients just getting chopped off. So there you go. You just heard like the audio signal, the parts of things that were kind of getting chopped off with this clipper. So that is the master bus. That's everything. And the last thing here is the built-in loudness meter. This is just mainly used after flat lines so that I can see like the LUFS, what is it, momentary, I don't remember what the S is, and then I is like integrated. So I can monitor like the actual loudness based on the LUFS, which is kind of the standard, right? So that is the master bus. Now, so this video doesn't run on for like 3 hours of me just talking about plugins. I'm just going to look at the buses going forward. I'm not going to look at every single individual track. So I'm going to look at the drum bus. I'm not going to look at the kick and the snare and the toms and all that. And why am I not going to do that? Well, because like I said, this video is going to run on forever if I do, but also I'm giving you this template for free so you can download it and check it out yourself. So if you want to see all the individual processing that I'm doing across all of the individual tracks, just download the template, load it up in Reaper and have a look, play with it, and you know, use it. You'll see everything I'm doing right there. But the other things I want to point out here real quick is, like I said, we'll take a look at the drum bus. So drum bus, let me pull these three up. All right, so we have a little bit of dynamic compression happening here, and this is basically just on the low end, and it's actually bringing up a little bit of volume on the top end. I'm almost kind of using it as like an EQ in a way, but this is just to kind of tame some of the super low end, like the sub frequencies, if they got to be too much, like in the kick drum, for example, or the toms, some of those floor toms, super low end as well. And then a little bit drum bus compression here. Again, this is just kind of the same thing that's happening on the master bus, but just specifically across all the drum tracks. It's very little bit amount of compression, somewhat of a more softer, relaxed compression. It's basically just, again, to smooth things out so that we don't have any huge peaks coming through from like a floor tom or even a rack tom or a snare drum hit or something like that, just to kind of smooth everything out, bring it on, you know, bring everything into kind of the same plane of existence, if you will. And then this channel strip emulation as well, where as you can see, we're just doing a few small moves of EQ here. Again, kind of top-down processing so that I don't have to do the high-end EQ boost and low-end boost across all of the individual tracks. I just kind of do it on the bus, and then everything else underneath within the bus, you know, gets that processing for free. So I'll play this back, and you can kind of see what's happening with the gain reduction and then the dynamic compression that's happening here, if anything at all. Again, it should be very minor. Yeah, again, so the dynamic compression, I didn't see it really do any gain reduction at all. So this is just like a kind of a last resort safety measure in case any peaks maybe hit just too high. But the majority of the compression is happening in this plugin here, and it was like maybe peaked at -1 dB, if even that. So you can see it's very small amounts, and that is basically it. So what I'll do is I'll just turn on and off this little EQ plugin just so you can hear what this is doing across all of the drums. And let me solo the drums so you can hear those specifically. Yeah, so you can hear that just a tiny little bit of beef added on the low end with the bass here on the lows, and then a little bit of more top end clarity coming through with the highs. So not a ton, but just a small amount, just enough to kind of bring everything together. All right, so on the bass bus, little bit of compression happening here with this, what was this thing called? Molotov. This is a dynamics processor slash like compressor basically, but I found it added a nice touch of like, it had a nice character to it, almost like a form of saturation, if you will, with this like alpha beta dial here in the middle. It sounded pretty interesting, so I decided to leave it. Then we have just some standard EQ happening here, just kind of boosting some of the low end here, cutting out some of these mid boxy frequencies and cutting off a little bit of the top end that I didn't want to clash with like the guitar and the cymbals and all of that. And then the last thing is this TDR Nova, this dynamics processor again. I have this side chained with the kick. And again, if you're in the Discord, you know this was kind of one of the learning curves for me with Reaper. You know, I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video. Reaper is not, this is not something I've used before. This is literally the first time I've ever used Reaper, was to put together this mix template. And this was something that took me a while to figure out, was how to sidechain. Well, first of all, how to sidechain, but second, that if you're using a VST like Submission Audio's Jinbass in a single track, those plugins that follow it are not going to get the sidechain signal coming from tracks 3 and 4 simply because of the way that the VSTs work. So I had to move it, all that processing, to a bus to sidechain on the bus. Anyways, let's go ahead and just kind of see what is happening here. So what happens is when the kick hits, you're going to see the gain reduction happening here in Nova on the low end to kind of pull back the low end frequencies of the bass so that we don't have the low end from the kick and the bass happening at the same time. Yeah, and you can actually monitor your sidechain clicking the SC over here on the top right of Nova. And when I play this back, the animation that you'll see was actually coming from the kick drum, and you can actually verify that by looking at the kick track here and watching that hit as well as the animation here. Yeah, so there you go. A lot of these animations are real choppy right now. I'm sorry, y'all. My system is getting beat up with all these plugins. All right, and so the last bus we're gonna look at is the guitar bus. And here we are just cutting off some of the low end and pulling back some of the low boxy mid frequencies there. Then we go into the Re-X comp again, just taming some of the low end, especially when we get into those palm mutes in this like ladder section here. So I'll play this back, and you can see this is starting to duck when it gets into those palm mutes. So there you go. You can see it was only crossing the threshold when we got into the palm mutes, which is where it gets real bassy, which is why we're pulling it back in just the low end. And then we go into the isotope imager again, and this is just, again, we're pulling up a little bit. Let me see, where am I pulling up to? About 30%. Pulling up and just kind of expanding the guitar sound so that I do have a left and right track, but when you leave it just purely left and right, I feel like it actually hurts your stereo signal, because, and even the mono signal, right? And if anybody knows, like, you should be listening to your mix in mono, if you have both your tracks, you know, if you're dual tracking and you have them both completely hard panned, then right up the middle, you're kind of losing your signal right up the middle. So when you use a stereo width plugin like this, what it actually does is sends a little bit of each side into the other channel, and then it kind of gives you this naturally like wider sound, at the same time giving you a stronger mono signal as well. So it works in both ways. So that is the guitar bus, and like I said, we're using the Ignite Amps Emissary and NAT-IR, which you can see here. And of course, if you know me and you know my channel, you've seen my stuff, you know I'm going to be using the Bogren Digital impulse responses, and here I am doing that as well with the Christian Kolopak. and we're using the Cole Chainsaw Bliss paired with the modern Fat Standard, which sounds absolutely insane, as you could hear in this audio sample. All right, everyone, we're gonna wrap this up right there. I think I've gone on long enough, and I didn't really want to go through every single plugin and every single track in the whole template because it's free. You can download it right now in the description below. You'll find the link there, as well as every single plugin that I used across every channel in this entire template. All the links are in the description below. So have at it. Enjoy. If you found this helpful and you dig this content and you dig the template, do me a favor, hit that like button down below, hit the comments and let me know your thoughts on the template and the plugins that I used. And again, I'm a first-time Reaper here, so if you have any advice or any helpful tips, hit the comments and let me those as well. Consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. And with that, I want to thank you for watching this video and thank you for your support.